Shall we dig into the Republican National Convention? And particularly Joe Crawford, Times Radio's multimedia reporter. So this is on the back of JD Vance saying that Britain will be an Islamist country under Labour. Talked about weapons and made a joke, I think, to be fair, about it, but never a truer word said in jest and all that. And we've also seen former UK Prime Ministers Liz Truss and Boris Johnson at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee too. Truss praising Trump's strength. Johnson posting a photograph alongside Donald Trump with a big thumbs up, saying that he is sure that Donald Trump will keep strong the support of Ukraine. Kind of a pointed message, bearing in mind that JD Vance, who is Trump's pick for running mate, is not particularly aligned on that point, has criticised the amount of money going to Ukraine under the US administration currently. So here is Joe Crawford speaking to Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Congresswoman, pretty right-leaning. Hard right-leaning, I think, is probably how you'd best describe her. But here's Joe Crawford speaking to MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, at the Republican National Convention today.
You know, I have some of the most highest amount of death threats because of people like you, because you choose to only take certain words from people, and then that's what you want to report. Shame on you. Shame on you.
But
because
where's your evidence?
No. You're the problem. And where's this woman from?
The Times.
You're
London.
from the Times? Okay, you're ridiculous. And you're the problem in our country. You lie about people like me. This is the first time you've ever talked to me. I want you to know, I'm a regular person like you. I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids. And we have to put up with the most unreal amount of bullshit because of little liars like you that take your job and turn it into political activism. Your job is the press. You should report the news. Not lie. No, not lie about it. You don't get to ask any more questions. I'm done with you. Because you're the cause. You're
One
the
more
cause
thing. You
of
call
our
the
country.
Democrats a
No.
party
You're
of
the cause of
pedophiles.
our
Do you have any
country being
response to
divided.
that?
You're the cause of our country being divided. You're the cause of President Trump almost being assassinated. You're the cause of everything wrong
where's
in
your
America.
evidence for those
No,
claims?
you're done. You're done. Yeah, go back.
Thank you.
But this is something that we've heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene before. The minute that there is a suggestion by Joe that JD Vance may have changed his mind as to what he thought of Donald Trump, she wasn't accepting that at all. Super interesting to hear that, Michael Binion.
Yes.
Laying into the press in such a way, it feels really difficult for us over here, actually. Perhaps we should feel lucky for having freedom of the press still here in this country when it doesn't necessarily feel like that's always welcome in the United States.
Well, I think it's gratuitous, insulting and completely ridiculous. And I don't see why press people should even interview her if that's the kind of reaction they're going to get. She didn't actually answer any question. She didn't listen to what the reporter was asking. She didn't attempt to say anything except the press is the enemy. And that has been the consistent message coming out from much of the Trump campaign for a long time. If and when Trump gets into office, we'll see whether that changes, particularly if the press gives a different kind of view of him. But I find this kind of demonizing of others all part of the general conspiracy theory that I'm afraid is so prevalent all over the United States. Somebody is manipulating things. Somebody is to blame. The whole thing is a setup. You know, what did Donald Trump fake his own attempted assassination? I mean, absurd. Did CNN cause it and all that?
To be fair, that is what some Democrats are saying.
Well, that's equally ridiculous. I mean, how could they be so? I mean, just look at the video clip. And what are they thinking? The trouble is, you're getting beyond reason here. We're getting into a state of raw emotion, and you're getting in a state of very excitable partisan politics. So almost any assertion, true or not, can be made, which is all part of what they would call the campaign rhetoric. I just think it brings democracy into disrepute.
Hannah.
I'm not sure we should interview someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, you're right, Kate, she is far right, but it's not that. It's that she's also a sort of lunatic conspiracy theorist. I mean, she believes in things like the Clinton kill list. She's called for the execution of the Obamas, of key Democrats, of Pelosi. I mean, she's incited violence. And all the while, you know, goes around with this lovely little MTG, you know, rah me. I refuse to call her MTG. She, you know, give her full awful name. And isn't it great that our girl did so brilliantly? I mean, bravo, Jo Crawford. She was very calm. She was firm. She was sane. She was British and polite. She even said thank you at the end as she had someone flinging her hand in her face. I thought she did marvelously. I thought she was a great credit to the paper.
After being accused of being responsible
Yes.
for the assassination attempts on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Let me just read out some messages because it is important for us to look at all sides of this.
Of course.
Why can't liberal-minded people accept the diversity of people having different views on abortion/murder unborn babies? The fact you won't read this out demonstrates this is an unacceptable view to those who claim to be free press. I pass no judgment on it. We were talking about the contents of Project 2025 and the plans, the suggestion by the Heritage Foundation think tank, the blueprint, I guess, by them, Project 2025, that the sale of abortion pills should be banned, although not an outright ban on abortion. Am I allowed to be a Trump supporter and listen to Times Radio, or am I deplorable? No. Not at all, because not every Trump supporter is the same. Not every Trump supporter, the majority of Trump supporters are not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Indeed.
She has her shtick.
Yeah.
She has her thing. We saw it from Don Trump Jr. earlier. He did the same thing to an MSNBC reporter who asked him about J.D. Vance again, and it was thrown back at him in exactly the same way. You're to blame. Why do you keep going on like this? Evening, Kate. It looks like a majority of voters will vote for Trump in November, says Paul. It is obvious that you don't support this choice. No, it isn't obvious at all. I think this, more than many other shows, we've tried to give a platform to those who have decided that Donald Trump is the person. We're trying to hear reasoned arguments here on the show. We're trying to set out what might be the agenda for Donald Trump. And earlier than many, we said that Donald Trump had a big chance, a very realistic chance of being the next US president. And that is absolutely what the polls are showing. We absolutely do not back away from that. Of course we don't. That is up to you, but it'd be very much appreciated if you could state your opinion and then try and report news from the Republican convention in a more neutral and balanced way. Many thanks from Paul, the engineer. I'm just giving you an interview that Marjorie Taylor Greene gave our reporter. I'm not reporting that in any other way than the interview that took place. This makes people really upset, doesn't it, Michael Binion?
It does. And I think the other thing is that it's very important for our own government to be neutral, courteous and fair-minded in dealing with potential presidents of the United States. As they've said, as everyone has said, Britain needs to be a firm and reliable ally, whoever's in the White House.
We need to be grown up about this.
We do.
We may not agree with everything, but we still need to be grown up about this.
Yes, and the problem is that I'm afraid some unfortunate tweets that we've had in the past are real hostages to fortune, where David Lammy, for example, now the Foreign Secretary, when in opposition, was wildly denouncing Trump as, a neo-Nazi and things of that kind in his tweets some years ago, which unfortunately comes back to hurt him now.
Well, his VP pick called Donald Trump America's version of Hitler, ?
Well, they did, yes. I mean, the Americans themselves have badmouthed each other quite a lot.
He's allowed to change his mind.
But I think the problem is that, I have to say, Keir Starmer did very well in getting a telephone call in very quick to express sympathy with Donald Trump. In fact, very few people were actually able to talk to him apart from our own Prime Minister, which is quite a credit to the Washington Embassy and particularly the ambassador, who looks as though she's probably got another 2 or 3 years in office as a result.
Hannah, come in on this. Look, we need to start asking the question. We need to be grown up about this. We need to ask the question about how the UK, how our Labour government, which is not traditionally aligned with what might be a Donald Trump administration, how our Labour government deals with that. Michael's already highlighted that Keir Starmer did really well in securing a phone call to offer sympathy to Donald Trump after the assassination attempt. How do we start to think about a Labour government working with a potential Donald Trump administration?
Well, I think we see how difficult it is because 2 former Tory prime ministers out of the 25,000 they've had recently are over there in Milwaukee at the moment. You know, there's Boris, who's giving his thumbs up and who Trump himself called Britain Trump. Liz Truss is there. I mean, funny enough, going back to the fact that David Lammy had had tweeted about Trump, and that, well, the fact is, so has JD Vance. It's JD Vance calling him a Nazi. Perhaps that's how they bonded, because apparently those two, Lammy describes them as friends, so maybe there's a bit of hope there. I mean, I think there are some legitimate worries. People are meeting at Blenheim to talk about European security. If you were President Zelensky at the moment, you would be incredibly concerned that Trump's feelings about Ukraine will be backed up by JD Vance, who has said he would like to cut a deal with Putin. I think it looks as if Starmer and Lammy are realizing that they are going to have to be true diplomats, and I think Starmer will be good at that. I think he's a naturally quite cautious man. He isn't full of dizzy eloquence. He doesn't get carried away by his own rhetoric. He barely has rhetoric, and I think that will be nice and useful in this kind of situation.
So his personality might not appeal to Donald Trump in the way that Boris Johnson's did, but if Keir Starmer remains, mild and shrewd throughout the whole thing,
if he can do a Joe Crawford and keep calm while people around him are exaggerating.
Yeah,